Carson. And from The Ben Ferguson Show, Ben Ferguson.
Did we do our seating right here? We followed directions well, didn't we? I think we need a little bit bigger round of applause for America's Real Doctor. Yeah. So hold on, we're gonna try something. You know, they say that conservatives don't have technology, okay? Pay attention. Hey, conservative Siri, what is the name of this show?
The Ben's Show.
There we go. Who says we can't compete, Doc? How are you?
I'm doing extremely well. Running up and down the highway and the airways. I was in Colorado Springs this morning where it was 2 below zero. So we've
That's cold.
A marked
Welcome
change.
to Florida, right?
I don't know why everybody doesn't live in Florida.
Trust me, have you seen the number of U-Hauls coming in the state? They're working on it.
1,000 people a day.
So I was sitting there the other day watching the Super Bowl, and I knew you and I were going to do the Ben Show, and I thought to myself, I'm like, man, this halftime show, I know Ben Carson's getting down. Who was your favorite?
I always root for the winner.
There you go. I like it. I like it. All right, I want to get into everybody's been focused on Ukraine. Everybody's been dealing with foreign policy. There's another crisis in this country right now. And, every time I see Fauci speak, I think, I wish Ben Carson was that guy. I would love it. Wouldn't you love it if Ben Carson had that gig? So whoever runs next time, I have a feeling whoever that person is might have been or be in this building. You heard the crowd. I think you know what your next gig may be. I am genuinely shocked and concerned in the medical community. I grew up, as you know, in Memphis, Tennessee. Right. St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is there. My wife's entire career was at St. Jude. And you see researchers get together, and you see them get it right, you see them get it wrong, you see them share information, you see them collaborate. It's what you do as a doctor. Yeah. Why is it now that we don't even see that? And not only that, we are trying to ruin doctors' careers who disagree or say something different on anything that the federal government, Dr. Fauci, or any of these dictators and tyrants in the medical community demand that they shut up and be quiet. Did you ever witness anything like this in your life? And did you ever think you would see it?
No, I must admit that even I am surprised at the level to which medicine has sunk because not following science. Claiming to follow science, but being completely unscientific. Science will actually ask questions about benefits versus risk. They will actually look at collateral effects of things. So when you take something like COVID, which, by the way, even though they don't want to let it go, it is going away because, the good Lord has a way of taking care of things. So he says, since they don't seem to have the ability to understand what's going on and they just want to manipulate it, I'll just make this thing get weaker and weaker and more contagious. Pretty soon everybody will have it. It'll be endemic and it'll be gone and they won't be able to make it last until November.
until another election, right? Until another. See, we're making headlines, folks. Ben Carson just said COVID will be gone by November. Write it down. Let's talk about Fauci, and I don't want to. I'm not talking about the politics, okay? I'm talking about the medical side of this. The job of Dr. Fauci and anyone in that position should be non-political.
Should be.
If you did a poll on Fauci right now, I believe he's probably more polarized than even Donald Trump is at any point in his political career. Dr. Fauci in that position is not supposed to be political. How does a man like that stay there knowing that he's lost the country? And I say this from the standpoint of we're going to need medical advice on something else down the road. You've seen all the different, you know the history of disease.
Right.
You understand how important it is to have doctors that have a platform to speak in a non-political dictator type way. I'm worried that we're going to face something much greater than COVID one day, and no one's going to listen to the people in charge because they say, I shouldn't have listened to them last time.
And unfortunately, you've hit the nail on the head there. you know, there's a tremendous loss of confidence in our government and in our government medical facilities, the CDC, the NIH, because they've allowed themselves to be manipulated and controlled by other forces. Now, you take something like what happened with COVID, and they needed to get an emergency use authorization, an EUA. We have a silly rule in place that says you can't get the EUA if there are other effective treatments. And that's why they denigrated hydroxychloroquine, even though...
Oh, you be careful with that word now. That's like a four-letter word in this country.
Well, it's a very good four-letter word.
I'm just making sure our mics are still working. You said hydroxychloroquine. All right, we're still on
because
here.
if you go to Western Africa, go to places like Nigeria, there's almost no COVID throughout this whole thing. Why? Because they take hydroxychloroquine as an anti-malarial. Now, if we were truly interested in science, that would have piqued our interest. Would have said, why is that the case? Why in some parts of India is there almost no COVID? Because they were taking ivermectin. But what did our people say? It's horse medicine. And they did everything they could to denigrate it. And the fact of the matter is, if we were using these things, and there are other things as well, I think hundreds of thousands of American lives would have been saved. So, wow. You know, we're killing people by playing politics and by just having policies that don't make sense. And then you take children. You know, I've spent my whole career as a pediatric neurosurgeon and being concerned about what happens with our children. They have, for a healthy child, the incidence of death from COVID is 0.025%.
Hallelujah.
That's approaching zero. But we have no idea what the long-term effect of these spike proteins are going to be on them. So we're trading almost no risk for long-term permanent risk. That makes absolutely no sense.
Am I a bad parent? I've got 3 kids. I've got twin boys that are 3. I've got a 5-year-old. And I have, obviously, doing a radio show, a podcast every day. You take a lot of heat from people because I said I'm not giving my kids the vaccine because I don't understand why I would do something to them when you just talk to the facts. In fact, if you go to the CDC's own website, they say my child has a bigger chance of dying from the flu than they do from COVID.
Yeah. Well,
so am I a bad parent for saying, being skeptical?
The feedback that you get by looking at people's facial expressions, we're going to end up with a whole generation of pathological people who don't know how to interact with each other. They're not looking at this. And we already have a lot of errors going on. You look at the number of emergency room visits by children year over year, 2020 to 2021. Psychiatric emergencies have gone up 40% in the first 3 quarters of those years that have been looked at.
I want to take a poll question real quick. How many of you are very skeptical of big pharma in this country? Keep your hands up. How many of you are very skeptical of the government working with big pharma? Keep your hands up. How many of you are even more skeptical that the government is paying for your free vaccine that's going to big pharma?
Yeah.
Are we paranoid or are we brilliant, doctor?
I think the American people are some of the smartest people in the world. If you give them the facts, if you let them work with them. When I was running for president...
Should I be worried about big pharma? Because I see the money, and I know the money, and you've seen the money.
Well, they've made more money than they've ever made before. I think they're very happy.
With a free vaccine that our tax dollars are paying for.
Exactly.
I'm paying for the vaccine if you go get the vaccine. I'm not anti-vax, but don't tell me it's free.
No, it's...
when I paid for it through my tax dollars.
It's a wonderful thing for them to be told that as much of this as you can make, we're going to buy it. You know, so they've never had an opportunity like that before and are taking advantage of it. And I'm sorry to see that. Now, there are some good people in that arena, but for the most part, they keep their mouths shut. And you know, that's the biggest problem that we have right now in this country. Most of the people are logical, they're good people, but they have a tendency to stand in the corner with their head down, hoping that nobody calls them a nasty name. And we can't do that. It's time for people to speak up for what they believe in, because we're trying to save our country.
We mentioned trust earlier, and you've dealt with pandemics, and this is the one that my generation is going to remember the most. But how much damage have we done to our children? And I'm talking about taking away their education. Mm-hmm. We know distance learning does not work. Masking them. We've seen now with young children that have a hard time with speaking, with putting words together, with pronunciation. I don't think you can put on paper how bad it is going to be for several different grades in this generation that lost years of education and years of basic learning. We're talking about kids that should be speaking, they're saying, that can't see their parents' faces and their teachers' faces because of the mask. And it's affecting them. What data, from a doctor's standpoint that deals with kids and pediatrics, are you worried about that?
Well, let me put it this way. Imagine what it must be like to be a little kid. You have to wear a mask, you don't get to see facial expressions. Then you're told you may be harboring some deadly disease. You may not be sick, but you may give it to your grandmother and she may die. Well, grandmothers do get older and they do die. Now you're feeling guilty about that. If you're white, you're told that you're an oppressor and you're the cause of all minorities' problems. If you're a minority, you're told that you're a victim. All of this is happening while you're trying to develop your self-image. And then if that's not bad enough, you may not be a girl or a boy. Can you imagine? It's child abuse. It's child abuse.
That deserves a standing ovation. I mean, that's the line of the day right there. We'll get taken out of context. Don't worry. Someone will write an article about it. Yeah. You see what we're doing, and you brought it up, so I'm going there. Is it child abuse, what we're watching happen politically now to kids with this transgenderism and pick your own pronouns and emojis on our iPhones that show a dude pregnant, which is, I want to make sure I'm right, it's never happened in the history of the world?
Not that I know of.
Okay. We'd really be breaking some news. Is it child abuse, in your opinion, to be raising kids in this world with hormone blockers and doing that to a child at a young age? Because I think it is.
Of course it's child abuse, but I don't want people to get off that easily by just calling it child abuse. We all have spheres of influence, and we have to stand up against this. We have to be aware of what's being taught to our children. In the preschool, they have these books about these worms. And they say these worms cage. And they are affecting the character of our children at a time of innocence when you're supposed to be having fun and developing. And, you know, we talk about things like how our system is systemically racist and it's keeping people from achieving. I'll tell you what's keeping people from achieving: the fact that we are destroying the American family and we are throwing away our faith in God.
Amen to that. As we wrap the Ben Show, conservative Surrey, do we have 30 more seconds? She didn't. All right, there, the audience decided.
For the Ben Show?
Yes, for the Ben Show. Do we have 30 more seconds, conservative Surrey?
45 is go.
Yes! Mask mandates, my last and final question for you. I don't like mandates, but I also know there's cause and effect.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on mask mandates in the country?
Well, I detest mandates. That's one of the reasons that we developed American Cornerstone Institute: faith, liberty, community, and life. People came to this country from all over the world because they didn't want people to be mandating what they had to do. They wanted to live the lives they wanted to live. This is a principle of this nation. We cannot let it go. We must not ever let that go.
If I get arrested on my flight home, I'm blaming Dr. Ben Carson. He said I didn't need to wear my mask. Give America's doctor a big round of applause. Maybe he'll be our Dr. Fauci one day. That concludes the Ben Show. God bless you guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the First Amendment Fund.
The Florida Lottery is proud to support education by contributing billions of dollars to Florida schools and awarding countless Bright Future scholarships so Florida students can do more than just dream of a brighter future.